Good afternoon, all. I'm just going to hand over to Eileen, who's just logging in right now to the call as well. You there, Eileen? I'm thinking that's a yes, maybe a no.
Hello.
There you go.
Here I am. How are you, everybody? Okay, with the Melbourne Cup starting very, very soon, it's probably really timely that we get started because the race is only 3 minutes long. So thanks, Dante, for hosting this session today. What we'll be looking at today is how to market your business coming up to Christmas. Now, we all know that Broom's going to get, significantly busy right through to Christmas, and we want to be able to maximise the social media channels to get our business names out there and to get people coming to our businesses. So Dante, again, is going to show us how to do that and how to make the most out of both Facebook and Instagram so we can maximise the traffic to our businesses. So over to you, Dante.
Thank you so much. And I guess we'll be looking at it primarily from a tourism perspective today, just to keep it within sort of a, I guess, an area that really over this upcoming time of the year gets really, really busy for you guys beyond just the retail shopping kind of stuff. But there's principles in here that are going to be really useful for pretty much every kind of industry. And what I'll do is I'll try and pull some different examples that will give an idea that goes beyond just tourism and goes to some others as well. First of all, that's me. I'm part of the Facebook Community Trainer Organization. We go around Australia at the moment virtually, but eventually, hopefully, to get back on the road again and get it back in front of people and sort of answer some of those in-front questions that everybody has. That's my team right across Australia. The one West Aussie that we've got in there is Sharon McBride, who's based in down towards Margaret River. So nowhere near Broome. I'm much closer to Broome than she is, but it's good to see that there is a West Aussie in there as well. And I believe that she got up to Broome last year to help you guys out and to do some presentations in your region too. So I'm going to go straight into what some of the key shifts have been because of the obvious elephant in the room being COVID-19. There's been a few things that have changed in terms of the way people see their travel. And a lot of this is very good news for a lot of regional areas like Broome and for the Kimberley in general, is that we're not looking so much for urban locations. It's really planning in this next leisure trip to go to the big cities, the Perths, the Adelaides, the Sydneys and Melbournes and the Jakartas and the Bangkoks are really off the agenda for right now, especially the overseas locations. So what we've found in some of the studies that have been taken over the last few months by Facebook is that the travel intention has moved more towards regional centres, what they call rural locations and beach locations. And since you've got a bloody good beach there in Broome, I'd say you would definitely be included in that one. That means that people are far less likely to want to fly to very far off locations. So they're overseas stuff and they want to go somewhere where they feel safe somewhere. And if there's been a state that's certainly done a great job of keeping people safe, it's been WA. So expecting a lot of people to be heading up from, and you've already seen some of this with people heading up with tourism vouchers, that kind of thing, to Broome from Perth and Geraldton and all of the southern cities. But also in the next coming months, seeing people coming across the border as those restrictions start to be lifted a little bit. Another little very interesting trend we've seen is that flexibility has become very important with booking. And this is where the airlines have really taken the lead. We're still looking for a good deal for best value money. We're still looking for a quality experience, but flexible booking policies such as refund policies on ticketing, on experiences, on accommodation have become increasingly more on our agenda than what they used to be. Whereas before we were always looking for the cheapest possible night, the cheapest possible dinner, the cheapest possible airfare. Now we're looking for, look, if things go belly up again in a month's time, that the borders open, and then next thing you know, there's a third wave that happens, then we want to know that we can either adjust our booking for no extra cost or cancel it altogether and hopefully get our money back. Not so great for those of us who operate in tourism and in accommodation and hospitality, because we want to be able to, bank on some money coming through. After all, it's been a really rough year. But those flexible booking policies have been really starting to dictate a lot of the traffic on booking.com, on hotels.com, Expedia, even through to Virgin Australia, and funnily enough, Jetstar, who've been reporting that their flights have been very much booked around getting the add-ons to make sure that flights can be changed a bit. Just a reminder too, the chat window is open, so feel free to please chat, ask some questions. We'll hopefully try to bring some more Christmassy stuff in there as well. But in the meantime, we'll stick to some of this more travel related stuff, and we'll answer some of those questions around Christmas travel and preparing your business for the Christmas period as well. Road trips are making a comeback. You're not going to drive to Broome in a Kombi van with a great big Parker on like that, but you will be the beneficiaries of those longer car trips, people who want to take a little bit longer, and what we call COVID refugees. I know in Darwin, we've got a ton of them here, people who just moved up to see out COVID. They did the 2 weeks in our Howard Springs facility, and they're now very, very happy to be staying on here and working remotely whilst they're in lockdown in their various cities interstate. You've probably got the same thing in Broome, people who've escaped from the not just the normal snowbirds that like to escape the winter down south, but they also like to escape from the restrictions, I guess, of being in cities where things just aren't as open as they used to be. So 66% of people who are looking to do a next trip domestically are looking to do it as a driving trip or a combination fly drive. So they'll fly to an area, hire a car, and do a lot of driving around a region. But regions like yours, mine, that's really good news because there's iconic drives that you can do. Now, it may take a long time to drive up from Perth to Broome, but there's iconic places you go past on the way, whether it's, dropping into Geraldton, dropping into Onslow, dropping into Shark Bay, dropping into, any of the stops along the way, which are so important along that very important coastal route, then we know that Broome and areas like yours are going to really benefit from that kind of travel. But what we're also doing is finding people coming home as soon as they can, people who grew up in Broome looking to want to come back to Broome. Visiting friends and family is the largest segment of reasons for people wanting to book a trip, not for going on quick escapes and little detox and relaxation trips and all those big bucket list trips where they're going over to New York and San Francisco and London and Paris. That stuff's right off the agenda now. So now it's all about visiting families and friends. So what we'll see is a return to a lot of regional areas where people grew up to go and see family and friends they haven't had a chance to see at all this year. So no matter what you're doing, and coming into Christmas especially, these 4 points really have to be defined tightly by any business in order to get you to a point where you can more adequately use your social media and use it in a way that's going to be really powerful for you. Asking the question of what's your story and what makes your business unique. Now, it doesn't have to be a tourism business, it could be any business whatsoever. What is it that makes your particular business unique? What is it that stands out about your business? Now, it could be that your business is the only one in town that does something, or you could be the only ones who do a particular thing. You're the only one who does turmeric soy lattes in town. If that's a really strong point of difference, or you make the best donuts in town, then that's something which you really need to zero in on and go, okay, we know who we are, and we know what we're really good at, and we know what makes us stand out about other places. And this can be said for Broome as a destination as well. What is it about Broome that stands out? Is it the isolation, which is in COVID times a very good thing? Or is it the fact that you've got world-class beaches? Well, then that could be a really great thing as well. Or is it because you punch well above your weight in the quality of your coffee, in the quality of your cuisine, in the quality of your experiences? Then that could be something which you can say is definitely a reason for people to travel to Broome over the Christmas break. But if it's just you competing with others in your town, well, then you're really just asking what makes you stand out against the 3 or 4 others in town who do exactly what you do. Then you go, who is the audience? Who is the person most likely to respond to what you're doing? Now, 68-year-old people are not likely to respond to a turmeric soy latte as much as somebody who is in that 25 to 35-year-old, what we call the hipster or the millennial age of people. Now, that's really important to know that you're putting the right product and the right message in front of the right person. Going towards someone who's 68 to 78 years old with a very, very very off the cuff craft beer that's brewed locally, or with a very quirky experience for accommodation, probably won't be as successful as those who are more in those adventurous demographics between 25 and say 39, where we're much more likely to take risks and much more likely to experience things that are just a little bit different and very Instagrammable, mind you, because that's that age that loves to take a photo of something that is different and quirky that makes them stand out as people on that platform. And then we look at what your particular business objectives are. What do you want to get out of this activity on Facebook or Instagram? Just doing it to tick a box to say, yep, we're on socials, we're fine, is not the great way to go, because it looks like it. When you're just going through the motions of your social media, it really looks like you are just going through the motions on your social media. So what do you want to get out of it? Do you want to get people to visit your website, to book your services? Do you want them to come along and actually buy something directly from your e-commerce website, from your Shopify or your WooCommerce website? Or is it, what's the most important for you is that you reach people when they first come to town, that they know that they'll get a great coffee from the Kimberley Coffee, or they'll get a great a night's accommodation in a particular guest house, or they'll get a great shopping experience when they come to a particular store in the center of town. Now, that is called branding. So branding is a very legitimate thing if you're trying to get into people's heads quite early in the journey of them becoming a customer, rather than just going straight for the kill and saying, buy, buy, buy. People may not be in town for long, or they may be staying quite a long time. So just going straight in for the kill for people who are intending on staying quite some time, or even long-time locals whose habits you are looking to change to come and buy your cupcakes instead of the cupcakes of the guy down the road, then that's something which you have to look at as a much longer thing. You're not just going straight into the buy now, book now. You're going to learn more, or you're going into download now, something which is going to give someone a bit more information. And then how do you use Facebook and Instagram to achieve that kind of outcome? Do you use ads, which you can very easily define the different steps along the customer journey, from not being aware of you at all to considering you amongst other options to finally converting to becoming a customer or a client of some description? So what are the tools that you would use in there? Would they be organic posting? Would they be using Instagram stories or the new Instagram reels, which I wish I could go through with you today, but I still haven't got my connector. It's still waiting to come in the post that connects my phone through the Zoom so that I can actually do online demos right there on my phone with you to show you how it all works. Sorry about that. I was really hoping to get in front of that. So you will know the difference between business pages and profile pages when it comes to Facebook, and then business profiles and personal profiles on Instagram. The biggest difference really is all about measurement, the ability to be able to see more about who's viewing you, what they're seeing, who they are, and what they love, what they are actually enjoying of the kind of content you have. On Instagram, it's always about being mobile first, and 1/4 of businesses on Instagram in Australia, they receive an interaction daily in the form of things like taps on the phone number, or directions, or a click to email, or a direct message through to their profile. So it makes it really important that you make it really, really easy for people to do these kinds of things, to be able to get themselves in there and be able to see where you're at and what you're doing. Now, let's quickly get on the right one. Just had to let a couple of people in the room who are a little bit late. There we go. Because it's not really business as usual right now. An example here would be from the Mona Museum down in Tasmania. These guys make it very clear that their museum's closed until late this year, at least, due to COVID-19. They're not pretending that it's open. They're not pretending that everything's normal. They're actually saying, yes, things are not normal. It's business as unusual, as a friend of mine likes to call it. So making sure that your information on Facebook and Instagram is correct, such as your opening hours. There's nothing worse than turning up to a town to go to your favorite restaurant. I had this experience in Tennant Creek about 3 weeks ago, where I went to go to this schnitzel place, right? It's this restaurant that sells about 32 different varieties of schnitzel. If it ever had a pulse, it's now available in a schnitzel in this restaurant. Now, it said on Google that it was open. It said on Facebook that it was open. I get to the town, it's not open, and apparently hasn't been for 6 months. Nothing more annoying than that. So making sure that if you've got reduced hours over Christmas, let us know that. Let people know that. Or if you're opening later over Christmas, you've got a really good opportunity to update your Instagram profile, your Facebook page, and yes, your Google My Business profile as well, which is probably even the most important one, to make sure you got your current opening hours in there, not the ones that you had about 2 years ago, because people need to know this information. Most of us, in fact, about 64% of us don't want to call you. We don't want to call you. In fact, that's the last thing we want to do. What we want to do is just go online, find out the information we need, get it, and get on with our lives. Actually having to call someone to ask if they're open is a really bad customer experience, because quite often it'll be answered by, a 14-year-old shop assistant who doesn't really care too much. They're grunting down the phone, and it just doesn't create a great experience for anybody. Also creating posts that communicate what your latest updates are, letting people know that your Christmas stock has just arrived, letting people know that you do still have some availability in your accommodation for people to book for the Christmas break, letting people know that this year, because of COVID-19, you're staying open over the Christmas break, because where you normally go at that time, if it's back east or up to Bali, or maybe as far afield as Europe or North America, you can't get to this year. So let people know, due to COVID-19, we're actually staying in town this year, and post about it, be proud of it, let people know that something's different. And then always my favorite part of how to fill my content is to proactively answer any kind of frequently asked questions that people generally have. My golden rule of content, whether it's on websites, on Facebook, on Instagram, on your Google My Business profile, is to always answer the top 10 questions that people ask you as a page on your website, as a post on Facebook, as a post that you can sort of craft in some kind of creative way using photography on Instagram. And you do that by basically saying, what are the top 10 things that people ask me when they engage with our business? And then that's 10 posts straight away that you can use. Then the next 10 are the 10 things you wish people would ask about you. So if you have an accommodation venue, you've got people who are asking the normal things: how much, when's it available, do you have cooking facilities in your rooms, are pets available? Then there's the things you wish they'd ask, such as, how far is it to walk from the beach, how far is it to walk to the closest shopping center, so you don't get those surprising things when they come into your place for the first time and get disappointed. You proactively answer those questions. People know what they're going to get. They know what they're walking into. And using things like direct messaging to help set people's expectations, in that when they message you, they can get an instant message back, particularly from Facebook. And you've all probably seen that on Facebook pages. You drop into a Facebook page and it asks questions. It says, hey, you want to talk to us? We're here. And it's got a list of very commonly asked questions they might have there ready to go to answer straight away. If you can help answer those questions as automatically as possible for people, then they will know what to expect. They're not going to be disappointed. You're actually using it to meet their expectations. They're expecting a really good, informative experience from a business on Facebook or on Instagram. So we'd be mad not to give that to them, wouldn't we? Now, one of the great valuable tools, I guess, that you get from business profiles and business pages is your insights. This is your stats. They might have been called analytics somewhere else, but what they do is give you a whole lot of understanding what actions are being taken on your page during the last week or the last month or whatever kind of period of time you're looking at. You can view things like the demographics of the people who've been visiting, how many page views you've had, how many likes, and all the actions that people are taking on your page or on your Instagram profile at just a short glance. You can see, I guess, insights that are very specific to people who are messaging you. You get an understanding of how long it takes to respond to those people, which is really important. If you've got a good, quick response time, people are having a good experience with your business. You can also get an understanding of people who are visiting, say, your website, clicking through to your website as shown on the screen there, or people who are clicking on your phone number. If you had 68 phone calls to your business in the last week, and it's showing you in your insights on Instagram that 67 of those phone calls probably came from Instagram, then you realize, wow, Instagram is actually a very powerful part of my toolkit. And a lot of these come in your Google My Business profile as well. Your Google My Business profile has all this same information, measuring how many phone calls were generated through the phone number that's listed in your profile, or how many people clicked through your website from your Google My Business profile too. So it gives you an idea that you can start to make better decisions about this. So you can view your account insights on desktop. You can download the Pages Manager app, which will help you to understand what your insights are on your mobile for Facebook. And there's also the recent addition, the Business Suite. And I know some people have had a little bit of trouble with this, but if you log into your Facebook through business.facebook.com, that will actually start you towards the journey of going to your Business Suite. And the Business Suite gives you the opportunity to be able to do things such as post to both Facebook and Instagram at the same time from the one interface. You can see all your stats, all of your messages, all of your ads that have been running on Facebook and Instagram in one place. So it's a much more simple way of getting all that information you want. So you can make decisions about whether photos of your product with a bit of Christmas flavor added to it as you're leading up to the festive season might be a great idea. You can look at whether asking questions about people's behavior over Christmas. When is the most appropriate time to set up a Christmas tree? What's your favorite recipe for eggnog? Should it have rum? Should it have brandy? All those kind of things can become great pieces of interactivity when it comes to dealing with people going into the Christmas season. And you can also look at, I guess, the posts that are working best and the posts that aren't working so well. So you can do more of and double down on the posts that are really doing well. So if people are really reacting to your videos, great, do more videos. If people are not reacting very well to the boomerangs you're doing, well, then stop doing boomerangs and try something different. Always be testing and trialing something new, particularly when you come to really fun times like Christmas, New Year, Easter, St. Patrick's Day, or Melbourne Cup Day. Play with those concepts and have a bit of fun with how you present yourself as a business and how you present your products at that time. A little bit of a case study of a particular case I love is these guys from Global Ballooning in Victoria. They started off in Melbourne. They're kind of those guys that when you see those photos of Melbourne, which have got, balloons floating over the skyline or over the Yarra Valley, as this one is here, you're seeing those examples where they've really become, I guess, part of the Melbourne tourist culture. But what they had trouble with is trying to identify what kind of stuff to post on Instagram specifically was going to work best for them. And they used their insights to work that out. What they found was photos like the one you can see on screen right now of a balloon in the distance, which is a gorgeous photo. It's absolutely beautiful. But it just was bombing when it went onto Instagram. People just weren't reacting to this photo as much as to other photos. What they noticed is that people were far more likely to react to photos that were someone holding a glass of champagne up to the in front of the camera with the view out in front of them, or showing what the breakfast was that they were eating when they were up in their very early morning basket tours on the balloons. Or it would be something like a first person view of getting into the basket. They actually have a little gate that you step straight into the basket, not like the very old days where you imagine people climbing up over ladders and falling into the basket and all that. It's very, very different. That first person experience of what will be my experience when I go on a balloon ride is what really worked well for them. And it worked that way for about 3 months. And then notice the engagement was down on those things. Next, they found that people were getting very interested in a lot of the behind the scenes stuff, videos of the inflation of the balloons early in the morning, videos of what happens to the balloons when they get packed up at night, when they come back in, or videos behind the scenes of people from the company talking about what they're doing became really popular as well. But they wouldn't have known any of this if they hadn't checked into their insights as part of their Facebook page and their Instagram business profile. So they got that information, they did some great job with it, and you'll find that there's a pattern of them changing their styles of posts over time as they work out what it is that people react best to. So now we look at how do we creatively communicate with people at all times, not just coming up towards Christmas, but I guess especially when we come into Christmas, well, it will be about communicating people at the right way and the right people at the right time. The idea is here that it needs to be the right message that's going to the people who are most likely to receive that message well, and then deliver it at a time when they're actually around or when they're actually ready to receive that message. Now, October is not a great time to be delivering Christmas messages. It tends to backfire a lot on people. We've all seen what happens when it's December 26 and hot cross buns start appearing on the shelves at Woolworths. It's not received particularly well, put it that way. But what we'll see is that there might be an appropriate message about Christmas saying, hey, it's only this many shopping days left until Christmas. And people might not like the fact that there is, but it's useful information for them to say, yes, you are starting to run out of time. If you're thinking of doing Christmas shopping this year, you may want to get onto that. The right people means making sure you're actually delivering your message to people who want to hear that message. I think we use the example of the turmeric soy latte before as being delivered to a 60, let's say a 78-year-old who has drunk, bushels tea all of her life. Probably the wrong person to be putting that in front of. And you know who the right people are by going to your insights. They will tell you who it is that's actually following you and who it is that's actually, doing, who's interacting with you. And the right time is all about, well, this is probably the most asked question I ever get when it comes to posting on Instagram or Facebook. When is the right time to post? Should it be Tuesday, Wednesday, 10 a.m., 6 p.m., 12 midday? When's the right time to post is when your stats or your insights say is the right time. Now, for me, I have a very big spike at around about between 5 and 7 p.m. on a Sunday night. I don't know why. That is the time that really spikes with interest on one of my websites, but I'm willing to work with that. And when I post something at those times, then I know that that's when people are already online looking at my business in some way, shape, or form. My Facebook insights tell me that 5 to 7 p.m. Sunday night time is really good for people to be doing that. So I'll produce stuff which I know has worked at that time before, which is usually, here's how to prepare for the week ahead. Here's the digital things to think of when you're thinking of the next week ahead. And that's been really, really great to be able to deliver that through to people to say, okay, I understand that you're starting to think about work again on Sunday night. So let's capitalize on that by giving you some fun, humorous, lighthearted looks at how you can prepare yourself for all the digital tasks you want to do for this upcoming week. But your peak time could be very different. It could be Tuesday at 11 a.m. It could be 6 p.m. on any weeknight. What you got to do is look at what it is you do at those times, and that'll be a really good idea of what you should do more of. If those things are very popular at those times of the nights, then you know that's something you should definitely double down on and do a bit more of until it stops working. And then you start and try something new. You're always learning along the way because people change, behaviors change, people's tastes change over time as well. So you can work with that. So I simply just go, reading those insights and making sure you are delivering the right message to the right people at the right time. Now, despite the fact that the world got very, very serious this year, and we got a little bit scary and we got a little bit, high and mighty in some, because of, everyone who was a bushfire expert last year is now an infectious diseases expert this year. So we got a little bit, a bit sensitive on what is appropriate and what's not appropriate when it comes to being active on social media during a pandemic. Yes, our way of life has changed and it will continue to change coming out of the pandemic, coming to the next crisis or going into the next trend, whatever it is. Even coming into Christmas, this is going to be a Christmas this year that's unlike any Christmas we've ever had before, probably since 1920. So we're looking at ways to do that. But what we've found is that not far off half of people who were surveyed earlier this year, right in March, when the pandemic was at its absolute peak and things were going kind of ballistic and shutting down all over the place, the 41% of people surveyed believed that we as businesses should continue to run funny videos or light-hearted content to entertain people. Because even though there was lots of information that was coming in, that we needed to be getting the right information, we wanted to get all the correct information, we want to be educated in what COVID was and how to survive it. We also were getting entertained because another 41% of people were watching more entertaining video from services like Netflix and YouTube and yes, Facebook and Instagram as well than ever before. We were watching way more of it, which told us we did still want to be entertained. It didn't mean that we necessarily wanted to be watching the news all the time. We still wanted to do light-hearted stuff. Lana's asking, why can't we still do polls? I don't know. I haven't been able to get a question back from that. I've never been able to do them. So it's something that's I've never been able to actually do. But with the polls, I'm guessing it was a test group that may have been given the opportunity to do it. It's been taken away, or it could just be that it's something you can only do on businesses, but I thought it was a business thing. You could run polls through Instagram, just not through Facebook. So I'll be sending off a bit of a message for that. I think I asked to put it on the Boost with Facebook Australia group, but I might just have to post that one myself. But I've had no answer on that one on why you can't do polls on Facebook pages anymore. Trying it through the Creator Studio, trying it through the Business Suite might be a great idea, but if they're not available, they're just not available, which is really scary because they were so high engaging. I think a lot of that now happens through the stories. They can run polls through Instagram and Facebook stories rather than through feed posts, but it'd be really great to do them in there. And we also found that 44% of younger consumers actually didn't have a problem with us as businesses providing ideas on ways to feel better about themselves during rough times as well. So you can speak into the culture, you can speak as a business into the broader stuff that's happening all around the place. You don't have to not speak into those things at all because it might seem like it's inappropriate. What we did find too was that we're looking to businesses to provide leadership in our communities. And quite a lot of time, this is due to the fact that we are going through the same pandemic as everybody else is. We are going through the same uncertain approach to Christmas, the same retail uncertainty that every other person is doing. They don't know whether it's safe to go into a shopping center and shop. They don't know whether the local Woolworths is going to have enough stock of toilet paper, beef, and roast pork for the Christmas season. So we go, well, we are the people at the end of this as well. We can speak to these problems. So 83% of people that were surveyed earlier this year in March agreed that we should provide tips on how to deal with the situation because we're suffering through it too. We're going through it just the same way they are. It's not just the end consumer that's going through the pandemic. We as businesses are too. And since we are, we can actually speak to that. We can say, yes, this is how we're dealing with it, specifically when it comes to how we're responding to it. Are we responding to COVID-19 by staying open? Are we responding to COVID-19 by closing or by just being a little bit more careful, having one less table in the restaurant than we normally would so that social distancing can happen a bit more effectively? What are we doing? And then show that stuff off. Especially coming out to Christmas when things get a little bit busier, when things go a bit more nuts, when people are coming in and out of town a lot quicker than what they normally would be, when those Air North flights and those Qantas flights, and I think you're still getting Virgin flights in the Broome now, are actually working, then you're starting to see, how you're letting people know that you're doing something about the situation, not just ignoring it and hoping it goes away. A case of this would be the Museum of Old and New Art in Tassie, the Mona Gallery. It's an incredible place. I do try to go there whenever I get to Tassie. Haven't been to Tassie for a couple of years though. They usually have what they call the Dark Mofo Festival. And that festival includes that spectra light, which you see on the far left. And that spectra light is kind of like that thing that happens every year that says, yep, this is the thing we do. This is, such a key component of what we do as the museum, but also as part of that festival. And of course, they couldn't have the festival this year and they couldn't even open the museum this year due to COVID-19. So what they did was still went ahead and did something and told the world that it's there. Spectra is still on, it's still happening, it's still going to be bright, and it's still a way of saying that even though things aren't the same, we're still going to be showing you that same piece of joy that you see every year through the winter months this year. Tim, who is a very lifelike mannequin, sort of an interactive human that you give commands to, and he does those things. It's quite bizarre, and he does very random things, and it's kind of that very uncanny valley. He's a little bit too human for my comfort levels. He's still there, and so is the museum. And what they're saying there is that, we're not open. That's fine. We understand that, but we're still here, and the regular things that we know that you love at our museum are still there as well. But the most telling things that Mona did was they ran their usual, they get a lot of people buying stuff for Mother's Day and birthdays and all that for parents because they sell very quirky gifts in their museum store. And what you'd normally have is people coming in to buy very quirky Mother's Day gifts. So they said, well, we want to still be able to offer those things, even though people can't come into our store because it's closed. What can we do to be able to do that? And they did that by putting a shop on Instagram and Facebook and through their website, which allowed them to be able to sell all those same things to people and get them delivered to them. So it made it so that very quickly, this particular shop could still trade, even though the physical shop was not allowed to open at all, which was really good for them because they actually ended up selling 10% more this year than they've sold in any year prior, which was a very interesting experiment. They've not previously done much selling online, but when they really pushed it this year, they got some really great sales out of it. Your Instagram stories are a really good way for you to start prepare for stuff that is a little bit out of the ordinary. So in your case, leading up to something like Christmas, you might want to go, this is how we're setting up our Christmas lights this year. This is how we're doing our decorations. Here's how we put together our table centerpieces for our restaurant. Here is how we developed our special Christmas latte and what the flavors are and how we put it together. This is where you can just get a little bit more behind the scenes, away from the everything having to be perfect and picture perfect and plucked and pruned to within an inch of its life, and actually do something playful, something that doesn't last forever, but something that's going to be interactive, where you can have your polls. You can ask people's opinions of stuff. And these polls can be actioned through Instagram stories primarily. And some of those things aren't so interactive on Facebook stories, but that is coming. A lot of that same stuff is on the way too. And then going live video has become this real phenomenon, and it really took a big rise this year, particularly during COVID-19, because whilst there was a whole lot of people who had gyms and were PTs and dance studios and had a lot of services where people couldn't go in and actually get those services due to closures, then they were able to live stream stuff. And this example from Splitters Farm in Queensland was where they have a rescue farm where they take in abused and neglected farm animals and native animals as well. They've got about 300 animals that they manage there. And well, they do it in such a way that they said, well, there's going to be this opening of this problem where people are having this homeschool their kids. Kids get really restless around about 10 a.m. in the morning. So what can we do to offset that? Well, my own kids in this case were getting very restless at 10 a.m. So we get them outside and we take the pony for a walk at 10 a.m. and have a talk about caring for the pony, what animals were being taken in, what new animals have come in, what we're doing to make sure we can keep feeding those animals. And that became up to 20,000 people viewing these live videos on a daily basis, because the word got around that at 10 a.m. you could do recess with Splitters Farm. And those who'd been to Splitters Farm, it's a place that they actually love. It's a place they like to interact with. The kids really love the activity. But they basically had to adjust their business model from that face-to-face things to a bit more of a well, like Carly is saying here, she wanted to make it a bit more of an educational platform, providing those live tours at the farm at 10 a.m. each morning that gave homeschooled kids a chance to get a bit of a break from the school stuff and see something fun and show them a part of the world that's still operating, even though it seems like they're not able to operate so much. And she got such a great audience of people, particularly from Melbourne, where they were very, very locked down, to really, I guess, offer an outlet, I guess, to give kids something that they could interact with and feel that they're included in, even though they can't go to that particular experience. As we come to Christmas, it's time to get very, very mobile, because people are much more mobile during Christmas. It's amazing. So Lana just asked, wouldn't live tours post-COVID mean people won't come to the farm because they can just sit at home and watch? The basic is that if they can just sit at home and watch, they're probably going to watch something a bit more entertaining. But during COVID, when you're trying to get a little bit of normality back in your life, going and doing something like that, you'll do it once. You won't do it every single day. But once you can start the tour again, then people will tour again. And we've shown this. I run workshops, obviously, in Darwin, workshops, and we've just switched back on for one of our federal government programs, the ASBAS Digital Solutions Program, live in-person workshops in Darwin, in Perth, in Brisbane, in Gold Coast, in Cairns, Mackay, areas like that. And what it's done, it's actually, we didn't think people would take to it. They'd be a little bit shy because, they can just log in from home and do a webinar whenever they like. What it's done is it brought everybody out who didn't really like doing the Zoom thing. They're a bit sick of the Zoom thing. They're kind of tired of the Zoom thing. So once we do have that open again, you have an opportunity for people to come back again. So if you're running those live tours, you've got to remember that live tour lasts for about 10 minutes. So you're not seeing everything, you're only seeing a piece of it. So you're essentially seeing what can be construed as a little bit of a promotional ad for that particular tour. So if you're showing, the 10 minutes of getting ready for the horseback tour on the beach, or 10 minutes of getting ready for going out on the bush, or showing just little pieces of it while you're out there. You're not showing the entire experience. So you're not immersed in it. You're not actually getting the value out of that whole experience. And the same thing as we said for shopping. You could show your shop. You could do live videos from your shop. You could show people the products in your shop, tell about the benefits of that. But the actual process of someone themselves picking it up, trying it on, seeing what it looks like next to them is very, very different. So live tours and live content doesn't necessarily take away from the real world stuff. In fact, it gives you a chance to use it as a promotional opportunity. Now, coming to Christmas, of course, we're looking at the idea of where you want to get very mobile first, because people are a lot more mobile than what they normally are during the year. So in order to be mobile first, you've got to make sure that people know who you are very early on in your videos or your photography or anything of that. You've got to make sure that you find the right balance of time. If somebody is watching something in the queue to get a coffee, they're not necessarily going to have half an hour to sit through a webinar with you. Or if they have, if they're sitting in that line, if they're standing in that line for coffee, they don't have their sound up. So you're going to make sure that what you do makes sense to somebody without the sound on. That could be really hard to do if you're doing a tour, for instance, but there's such things as subtitles and captions that you can insert that stuff in, or put occasional floating text to come across the video or the photo so people can see what's actually going on, even if they can't understand the words that are coming out of the person's mouth. Framing things for where people are is really important, because you've got to understand that not everybody is on a desktop computer. So designing something and for you on a desktop may not be of any use when someone's actually on a mobile. And remember too, mobiles outdoors, the bigger the picture that can fill the whole frame of it, the better it's going to look in a bright environment. So making sure that you don't have too much darkness in your photos, because that tends to make it almost feel like it's a black mirror on your phone that you can't really see much except for your own reflection in there. Unless, of course, that is your whole purpose. A lot of different creative tools are available for you to download for free. So Ripple is really great for adding motion into still images. Quick is really good for animating your photos in time to music, a bit like TikTok, I suppose. Boomerang's great for that backwards forwards thing. You'll see a lot of that going on with the Melbourne Cup, of people dressing up for Melbourne Cup lunches and such, and doing their whole twirling their dresses and going back, going forward, going back, going forward. And one that I really like as well is Adobe Photoshop Mix, because it allows me to slice different things together and overlay different stuff like text and all that to it as well. And they're all free apps that you can use. They don't cost you anything. They do have some pro versions though, but the big kahuna is probably Canva. That's probably the one we all really know really well, and it works really great on the mobile as well. It allows you to take templates, drop your photos in, and you've got something which looks really attractive and really professional as well. So yeah, getting on the Canva, doing all that will help. And there's a lot of Christmas content and structure and templates in Canva already. So if you get in there and start using that sort of stuff, and also what you probably don't realize, that Canva actually helps you make videos as well. So they can do video templates that have already got the Christmas music, the Christmas stuff around it, that you can then get across to people in a way that allows them to feel Christmassy. You don't have to put a heck of a lot of time into it. And as long as you don't do the same as what everybody's doing and you add a little bit of something of yourself in there, it's not going to look too boring. So yeah, get on the Canva and try some of those Christmas templates for both still images, but also for videos, because videos can be really, really well done and very easily done, up to 10 minutes long with Canva. And then you can post all that stuff through Creator Studio as well. So it gives you a chance to put overlays on there, match music to some of your stuff. You can upload your own sounds, although if they are copyrighted, you will get in trouble, or you can find some preloaded ones that they've already got in there that are copyright free that you can use. It also saves a lot of things like your uploads of photos of your logos, that kind of thing. So you can then add your colors, your logos into something just at the touch of your hand. And that's a free service. And now is actually allowed. Creator Studio, unlike Business Suite, Creator Studio only lets you post to Facebook or Instagram, not at the same time. You have to do it in Facebook, then you go to the Instagram one and do the Instagram one. But Business Suite allows you to post to both Facebook and Instagram at the same time. And again, you get to that Business Suite by going to business.facebook.com, and that will give you an option over on the left. So if you go on the menu down the left, you'll see business suite. Sorry. Oh, I need to wet that throat a bit. The business suite a bit, and you'll be able to play around with that there. Now, what I want you to do is to look at discoverability to make sure that people find it easy to find you when they see stuff in the feed or in their stories. They can actually see where it is and who you are. We've long been able to tag ourselves on Facebook, but you can also tag yourself in Instagram stories and also by using hashtags and the @mentions right there in your Instagram feed as well. In this case, Robert Stein Vineyard Winery and Farm has been really well tagged in there as a location, but also as a profile on Instagram, and using this hashtag See Australia hashtag, which then gets in the attention of the australia.com website and the Tourism Australia presences on Facebook and Instagram as well. But make sharing as easy as possible, because I think this is Lake Hellier in the southwest. You've also got to let yourself be easily found and shared. So by doing it online, you're giving people a hashtag that they can use to share you. If it's offline, have stickers in your window or something like that, which lets people know what to actually hashtag you as. When I was flying to Nhulunbuy on the other side of the Northern Territory actually almost exactly a month ago now, at the beginning of October business month in the Northern Territory. And what I noticed on the winglets of the Air North flight is they have their hashtag. So I'm always that guy who takes photos out across the wing to show, what I'm flying over, the clouds, or whether it's a view down below or a dust storm happening in northern New South Wales or something like that. Having that hashtag on the wingtips reminded me straight away, make sure I actually hashtag Air North AU as as what I'm going to do here. And what happened, the photo I took at Darwin Airport was then used by Air North for them to create some new content on their pages as well. So they actually took my content and said, hey, we love your photo, we'd love to share it, but they might not have known about it if I didn't actually use it. Good question from Lana, great question. What's the difference between a hashtag and the @tag? So the hashtag is kind of like categorizing your content. So let's just say there's a photo on screen right now, which is a photo of a guy, a girl, a four-wheel drive, and a pink lake. A hashtag that would be appropriate for this would be pink lake, or hashtag four-wheel drive, hashtag happy couple. It's more about the content that's in the photo rather than the location the photo is at. You could still do, if that's like, I don't know if it's Lake Hellier, but if it's Lake Hellier, hashtag Lake Hellier. But an @mention is when you're actually trying to tag an account. So another account or another person who's on that platform, whether it's Facebook or Instagram. That's the big difference. If you want to hashtag it so it becomes part of the list of all the things that are happening in that location, or whether you want to actually get the attention of someone else's account, that's an @mention. So very important distinction. Thanks for that, Lana. And also creating visual moments. One thing I really, really like about when you go across a border into Western Australia or into Northern Territory or South Australia, they've always got a signboard which says, welcome to Western Australia, or welcome to the Northern Territory, or welcome to Alice Springs, welcome to Kununurra, all those kind of things. That's so very important to give people a reason to stop and take a photo. It's the reason why we have big things, big pineapples, big bananas, big sheep, big prawns, big potatoes, is so people will stop and take a photo and have a memory of that particular place, and they're sharing that memory of that place to other people. Before, it might have waited till slide night at home. We invited all our friends over to watch our slides of our holiday memories. These days, it happens instantly online through Instagram and Facebook and TikTok and Twitter and whatever other social moments we want to do. But having those moments, having something in your shop that lets people take a photo in front of it, having a great Christmas window, that's an awesome idea. Give people a reason to take photos in front of your business or in your business or doing something with your business. It makes it so much more exciting, so much more shareable, and it's a real moment that they can take into their day and into their life. That moment for these guys, for Cameron and Tash in the Sierra Escape at Mudgee, New South Wales, see that bathtub? Well, that's their Instagram moment that people have traveled for, and that impacted their operations and their content stream of what we call user-generated content. It's that user-generated content is what really has driven them. They have not done advertising. They haven't really done very much in terms of paid advertising for their particular glamping setup in Mudgee. They got 5 tents, they got 5 decks. On one of them, they stuck a bathtub and connected it through. And that particular tent gets booked out every year for 6 months in advance, and no one can get it booked because everybody who goes there wants that Instagrammable moment in the bathtub overlooking that grand vista. So of course they looked at it and went, well, if we want to be able to do this whole thing, we want to be able to get more people in the door, why don't we stick more bathtubs on decks? And that's exactly what they did. They then got more bathtubs. They got all 5 of them now have that bathtub. So now that they can fill up those glamping tents all year round with people wanting to get that amazing Instagrammable moment, to the point now they're looking at building even more tents because, they may have had 3, they made it up to 5. Now they're looking at having up to 10 where they can have enough people come and get that unique shot over sheep farming country in a bathtub outdoors. Although I don't think I'd like to do that in winter somehow. It gets bloody cold there. So some areas where you can really start to reach into to get that little bit further. Things like Facebook groups for your local businesses, Facebook groups for local what's on, Facebook groups for local tourism, all those kind of areas where you can join together with people to get more of a message out there. Just don't spam it though with what your weekly specials are. Don't just spam it with a copy, a JPEG of what your catalog is this week. Be a bit more creative about it. Ask people to go run polls, even if it's like a comment poll, say, okay, we're thinking of doing a new flavored latte. Should it be pumpkin spice or Christmas turkey? I imagine both of those would taste absolutely disgusting in a latte, but hey, take my idea and run with it if you wish. And go with local networks and initiatives. So we're looking at if there is a buy local campaign that's going on, take part in it, share that, tag it, hashtag it, whatever you need to do to make sure people are actually knowing that you're taking part in that local network and that local initiative. If you're accepting tourism vouchers, then let people know that your particular venue, your particular experience or tour or accommodation venue accepts those vouchers. Or if there's grassroots campaigns such as Black Lives Matter that you want to support, or closer to home, you've got things like Buy from the Bush and Stay in the Bush as ideas that you can get behind and hashtag. You can leverage a lot of the goodwill that's already going on in those campaigns and attach those to your business. And you can even reach even further by finding some of the things that you do in your business that are related a bit more to, they may be ideas that you could do. So in this case, it would be the Catherine Outback Experience, just about 3 hours down the road from me here in Darwin. And they realized that they were not getting their normal traffic through in the form of grey nomads who come through every year up the Stewart Highway on their way to get to there, and they'll see, oh, here's a good old outback experience, with horses and cattle and handsome men in 10-gallon hats. They would get that experience, but the problem was, in this case, was that they weren't getting that traffic because of COVID-19, but they did have a whole bunch of horses, which are very used to having people on them. So when the Northern Territory brought out their tourism vouchers, which gave you a dollar for dollar $200 voucher, so you spend $200, you get an extra $200 to spend. They wanted to get their share of that, but they knew they couldn't get that through people coming from elsewhere. They'd have to get it from locals. And there wasn't really much that they did that actually appealed to locals. So they started up horse riding lessons and horseback experiences for locals, particularly for teenagers. And they were overrun with people using their territory tourism vouchers to get a discount on being able to have a horseback experience. And that Catherine horseback experience is now an additional product that they offer aside from being just the Catherine Outback experience. It's been quite a turnaround for them. And Tom and Annabelle, who are in the middle there, Tom sings country music as well. He's quite well known for it up my way, and he's also a bit of a legend. So it's really, really cool that they were able to turn that around. But they use Facebook to promote that and to use Facebook ads to get that message out, like you can see in that sponsored ad, which was a boosted post, in fact, that they did over there on the left. Good question from Lana again. Why wouldn't you just ask those same questions on your page as opposed to a group? What's the benefit of having a group? I'm talking mostly about not your own group, but in other groups. So there'll be the groups that people are in, such as buy, sell, and swaps, what's on in town. It could be the Kimberley kids group, anything like that. Asking these questions in those groups is because they've already got a large audience in there. So setting up your own group, probably not that helpful to you at this stage, unless you've got raving fans who absolutely love what you do and are willing to discuss what it is you do. But the problem with setting up groups that are associated with your Facebook business pages is that whilst your business is very interesting to you, it's not that interesting to everyone else. It's a big part of your day, but a small part of everybody else's. Even if they come to you every day for a coffee, doesn't mean you're that big a part of their day. And they don't particularly want to sit there and discuss the benefits of drinking coffee and Broome all day in a group. Whereas a broader subject, such as what's on in Broome or things to do for kids in Broome, could be far more interesting with far more contributors for it. A group from a Facebook page is not particularly helpful because we'll run it as businesses and we want people to talk about us all the time and say positive things about us all the time. And we want to spam them with our messages all the time. It's not really how it works. If you've got something really spectacular and stunning to share with people in one of these bigger local community groups, then that can be really, really beneficial to you. And finally, we look at connecting with others. We use some of the tools that are already built into Facebook because people are using Facebook Messenger and WhatsApp like never before. In fact, we've seen over 50% increase in total messaging from March to April this year. We saw 64% of people saying across all generations that they would rather message you than call or email you. That's really big news. It's because we like to take a phone call because we can quantify a phone call. We say, oh yes, I had 3 phone call inquiries today, but we find it more difficult to go, oh, we had 3 inquiries through Facebook Messenger today. And it feels a little bit like it's a naughty child thing that, oh, I shouldn't be looking at my phone because I'm at work. But the reality is that 64% of people want to message you rather than call you. So in fact, you go to Generation Z and it's almost 90% of them don't want to have anything to do with phoning you. They have no intention of ever speaking to you. They just want to order your product. They want to find out about your product all online without interacting with you. So if you're not providing that channel for them, you're missing out on that next generation. And they're all getting to about 25, 26 years old now. So they're now starting to come into their very big consumer cycle. They're starting to come into their marriage cycle. They're starting to come into thinking about first homes. They're starting to become a very significant group of people. There's more people who are millennials on this planet than people who are not millennials right now. And the next generation, Generation Z after them, they're even bigger. So when they become the primary consumers, they will remember who made it easy for them to deal with them and who didn't. 60% of Gen Zers globally wish they could message more businesses. It actually annoys my 20-year-old housemate when he has to call someone rather than message them. In fact, he'll go so far as to say, I will not deal with that business because they won't deal with me the way I want to be dealt with. Sounds like a customer, doesn't it? So how do you deal with them? When you're using messaging platforms, offer something that's a combination between being an AI and a human. Use those basic answers that come through. So those automated answers that come through on Facebook Messenger, but also look at the possibility of jumping in the middle of those conversations. You can turn on your instant reply with that process, but I would say make sure that you're available to jump in when you can. The way to message customers, mostly in Australia, is through Facebook Messenger, but WhatsApp has all these kind of things as well. If you're dealing with people who are coming from overseas, say Indonesia, from Singapore, from Southeast Asia and Europe and South America, then yes, WhatsApp is very important to them. I would say have them both on there. In fact, on my desktop, on my Mac, right now, I've got a thing that shows me my WhatsApp feed. It shows me my messages. It shows me Messenger from 2 accounts. It shows me my Android messages as well. So I can go into this one thing, and it's I can't even remember what it's called because it's for a Mac. But there's similar things for Windows as well, which combine all your different messaging services into one screen. So you can then see what they're all doing and interact with people the way they want to be interacted, but in a familiar setting for you because you're on here. So to wrap it up, the points to remember are to define what it is you want to get out of the run into Christmas. Yes, more customers and more money will be great, but this might also be your downtime, your off season. So it might be a good chance for you to get a bit more branding out there about who it is and what you do. Secondly, ensure that your messages are very much made for the right person in the right format, in the right time, and with the right message. Third, make it easy for people to discover you, and then make it easier for people to actually share stuff about you, those Instagrammable moments you can place in front of your tours, your businesses, anything at all. Make it so much easier for people to share what it is you do. And if it's quirky, that's even better. And then be responsive and provide really good information to your customers, whether it's in terms of the information you've got on the Google My Business, your Instagram profile, your Facebook page, that it's up to date and relevant so they don't have to go looking for that information. They've got it all there in front of them. The usual sources of information, I'd say the Facebook Blueprint is probably the best place to go to learn all about how to operate Facebook and Instagram stuff. In fact, they've got a new course on there now for using Instagram Reels. So if you want to learn more about that, you can. Also, you can join the Boost with Facebook Australia, which I sit in all day. Facebook actually pays me to be in that group to help support businesses just like yours. So please hop in there. There's 7 trainers who are in there at various times. I'm in there all the time. There's also Facebookers from Sydney who sit in that there, and they help answer your questions as well. So please make use of these resources. They're there to help you out again. Thank you, Simone. I like to give out the great advice, so thank you very much. If you'd like to reach out to me personally, though, Dante at clickstarter.com.au is where you'll find me. But on top of that too, I'm also going to be available through the ASBAS Digital Solutions program again in 2 weeks' time. I took about a 6-month break from it because I got a little busy, but I'm now in a position where I'm going back onto it. And as a Western Australian small business, you'll be able to access it as well. So the address to go to, I'll just put into the chat window, is businessstation.com.au. Business. Got to make sure I spell it correctly. And you look for the ASBAS program, and that's where you can sign up for that one. It gives you access to free workshops, some paid workshops as well, but most of all, it gives you access to subsidized one-on-one digital support. So give me about 2 weeks and I'll be onto that one as well. I just re-signed up for my contract for it. So I look forward to seeing you there. Any questions in the meantime, please throw them in the chat window before we go. Otherwise, get on to catching on drinking the rest of the champagne and eating the rest of the chicken sandwiches from your session. I've recorded this too, so this will be sent through to Lana and Eileen back in the BCCI, so they'll be able to pass it on to you if you want to view anything of this again. Thank you again, and I will see you next time.